Homeschooling is exploding. But is it actually good for kids? Homeschooling is becoming more popular, like way more popular than it was even a few years ago. In some areas, schools are actually creating homeschool programs just to stop students from leaving completely. Every year, more families pull their kids out partway through the year. And online, the conversation around homeschooling is intense. Some people think it's the best thing you can do for a child. Others think it's one of the worst. So, why is homeschooling growing so fast, and is it actually a good idea? For a lot of families, homeschooling isn't about politics or ideology. It's about efficiency. Parents start looking at a 6-hour school day and asking, how much of that time is actually spent learning? Once you take out transitions, waiting around, behaviour management, assemblies, admin, the answer is usually not much. Some parents try learning at home and realise their kid can get through the same academic work in 2 or 3 focused hours, calmly, without constant interruptions. And once you see that, it's really hard to unsee it. Another big reason is pace. Classrooms are built around averages, but kids aren't average. Some fall behind and never quite catch up. Others move faster, get bored, and just switch off. At home, the pace can change without anyone feeling embarrassed or labelled. To be fair, teachers are already trying to do this. Differentiation is part of modern classrooms, and most teachers genuinely care. But when you've gotten 25 or 30 kids, all with different needs, learning levels, and emotional loads, there's a limit to what one person can realistically do. The expectations on teachers are huge, and the stress is real. For some parents, homeschooling isn't about rejecting school or teachers. It's about realising that in a one-on-one environment, they might be able to meet their child's needs more consistently. For kids with anxiety, sensory overload, or learning differences, that flexibility can feel like a huge relief. There's one story I've read that really stuck with me though. It's about a girl who was homeschooled her entire life. For the purpose of the story, let's call her Anna. Anna was 16 at the time. For the first 10 years of her life, she was severely sheltered and socially isolated. There wasn't a real homeschool program, no structured curriculum. Her mum gave her access to a few books and considered the schooling side of things done. By the time Anna was 16, she realised she was basically on her own trying to catch up on almost her entire education. She'd never done exams. She didn't even know what level she was at academically. So she turned to online educational programs. Not because it was ideal, but because it was free, accessible, and the only structure she had. Socially, though, that was the hardest part. Anna talked about how lonely it was, how making friends felt almost impossible because she never got to practice being around people every day. No classmates, no lunch breaks, no casual conversations. For a long time, she didn't even have a phone, so there were stretches where she had literally no one to talk to. One line she wrote really hit me. She said friends are stupidly hard, not dramatically, just honestly. She described feeling impossibly alone at times and said that trying to talk about her feelings at home wasn't safe either. Anytime she brought up how she felt, the conversation turned into defending homeschooling instead of listening to her emotions. And here's the part that really matters. Anna wasn't saying homeschooling ruined her life. She was saying it failed her because there was no structure, no support, and no space for her voice. She also mentioned that her best friend was homeschooled too and had a completely different experience. That friend had structure, had friends, had hobbies, had emotional support, same label, completely different outcome. Anna's takeaway was simple, but heavy. Homeschooling can work, but only if effort is put into the right places. The child's education, their friendships, their interests, and unconditional love and support. She said something else that really stuck with me. Trying to keep kids in a bubble feels protective, but bubbles don't prepare kids for the real world. Kids need people. They need hobbies. They need to learn how to communicate, disagree, and stand up for themselves. And she ended with this, not angry, just quietly honest. Please listen to your kids. Even when what they're saying feels small to you, let them feel safe. They deserve to feel loved. They deserve to enjoy life. And honestly, that's the side of homeschooling that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. This is where homeschooling gets complicated. Some families choose it to reduce screen time, and that works really well. Other families end up replacing school with even more screen-based learning. Online learning platforms can be amazing, but they also highlight something important. Homeschooling only works when there's real structure. Without structure, motivation fades quietly. And by the time you realise something isn't working, a lot of time can be lost. Another uncomfortable truth is this. Teaching is actually really hard. You can find all kinds of memes, blogs, Reddit posts and videos about how hard teaching is. So it's no surprise that even highly educated parents say they struggle to teach their own kids. Being good at a subject doesn't mean you're good at explaining it, especially to someone who learns differently from you. A lot of parents burn out. Lesson planning gets exhausting. Consistency drops. And when that happens, kids don't always complain. They just slowly fall behind, sometimes without even knowing it. Then there's the social side. Some homeschooled kids do great socially, especially when parents are very intentional about sports, clubs, group classes, or community activities. But it doesn't happen automatically. Extroverted kids in particular can really struggle with loneliness. In homeschooling, social interaction has to be built on purpose, and that takes time and energy. There's also a reality people don't always like to say out loud. Homeschooling is a privilege. It usually requires flexible work, financial stability, and a lot of emotional energy. And in many families, one parent, often the mother, has to step back from work to make it happen. A lot of parents say they agree with homeschooling in theory, but don't actually have the capacity to live it every day. And that doesn't make them bad parents. It makes them honest. So is homeschooling good or bad? Honestly, it depends. It can be amazing when parents are consistent, structure is strong, and socialization is intentional. It can also go really wrong when it's reactive, underplanned, isolating, or driven by fear rather than fit. Homeschooling doesn't magically fix education, and school isn't automatically better either. What I think this trend really shows is this. Schools aren't broken. They're just built for scale. Homeschooling is built for customization, and families are starting to pay closer attention to what actually works for their child. So maybe the real question isn't, is homeschooling good or bad? It's, what kind of learning environment does this child actually need? So what do you think? Is homeschooling a smart evolution of education, a risky experiment, or something that only works in the right conditions? I'm genuinely curious.